Oh, wait.
There. Dale and Betty Swingen want to offer holiday greetings to their family and their friends and their relatives, and especially their grandchildren. To do this, I am going to tell a boyhood story, a memory that I can remember, about a Christmas in Overley, North Dakota. It would be in the winter season of 1930, 1931. I would be 6 or 7 years old. Now, Overley is a small town in the foothills of the Turtle Mountains, and its population at that time was about 125 people. It was a division line on the Sioux Line Railroad, so we had some Sioux Line employees there. My grandfather's farm was just 1/2 mile north of Overley. In fact, the north boundary of the city, the village of Overley, was right at the edge of my grandfather's pasture. Now, at this time, the farm was owned and operated by my Uncle Johnny. Uncle Johnny lived with his wife, Aunt Nellie, and their 2 twin children, Bobby and Deucey. Now, Christmas Day, there was always church services in the Overley Lutheran Willow Creek Church. And I'm pretty sure in those years the services would still be in Norwegian. And the services were at 10 o'clock in the morning. And by 12 o'clock, my Uncle Johnny would hook up his team of horses to the bobsled. The bobsled consisted of the runners and a grain box mounted on the sled runners. And his team of horses were a stallion named Dick and a mare named Flo. Now, Dick was rather a wild horse, and us children were told to keep our distance because even looking at his eyes, you could see he had a wild look to him. Well, Uncle Johnny would put 2 weathered chairs in the bobsled up front, and his first stop would be at the home furthest south in Overley of our relatives, and that would be my great uncle Marcus and my great aunt Maudie. They had both immigrated from Norway, and Aunt Maudie was an excellent lefse cook. Well, Aunt Maudie was a tall, slim lady, and on this day she was a little more plump than usual, because she never wanted, she'd always deny that she was bringing this lefse to the family dinner, and she would take and fold up her apron and hide all these packets in her apron. And of course, we were children and would ask, "Did you forget the lefse, Aunt Maudie?" And she'd say, "Oh," she says, "I had a terrible failure. There isn't any lefse for the party today. I fed it all, the dough all to the chickens." Well, the next stop for Uncle Johnny would be right between the home where I lived with my parents, Peter and Stella Swingen, and my older brother, John, and my older sister, Genevieve. We would, when we heard the sleigh bells coming down the lane, we knew it was time for us to take and put on our overshoes, our big coats, and our warm mittens and caps. And I was allowed to take my favorite Christmas gift that Santa Claus had brought the night before, so that I could take and show it to my cousins. Now, next door was the Hink family, and Fred Hink, my uncle, married to Matilda Swingen, was a barber. And they had several teenage children and a cousin of mine by the name of Joyce that was only about 1.5 years older than I. So of course I was very anxious to show Joyce what I'd gotten for Christmas and find out what she'd gotten also. Uh, when we arrived up at the farm, well, of course, Aunt Maudie secretly headed for the pantry. And right away, us children were told that we should take off our outer jackets and clothes and go into the living room and sit around the Christmas tree and stay out of the way. And we were not supposed to go in the pantry. Well, we would hear this talk going on about that if anybody had found out Maudie's lefse yet. And we thought, my, if they just give us a chance, I bet we could find it. But of course we couldn't. And it took me a few years before I really tumbled to what was going on for this search of lefse, because the adults would be called in there and you know, say, can you come and find the lefse? And they would go in and look, and they would say no, they couldn't find it, but there would be good cheer and toasting with holiday uh, greetings to each other, happy, happy Christmas, happy, happy Thanksgiving. And then it wasn't too long, it was time to sit down to the big dining room table in the dining room. Well, the men folks were served first, traditional Norwegian custom. And if they were a teenage adult or a boy that was soon to be an adult, you probably got invited to sit down if there was room at the table for you. Well, after that, they had eaten their fill. Well, then the table was cleared, and the children and the older teenage girls got to sit down and eat. Well, of course, we were so excited, we ate pretty quick. But oh my, we had roast turkey, and of course the wonderful aroma of lutefisk and lefse, and all the other cranberry goodies and things like this. And my mother, I know, had brought a big flour sack full of 3-day buns and some angel food cake. And of course there also was pie for dessert. Well, after the children were done, well then it was time for the housewives, the mothers, and the older daughters to eat. And again, when the table was cleared, then us children would come to the table again, and also our great Aunt Maudie, because she was the star of playing a game of hearts. And as many years as this had gone on, she certainly must have tumbled to it. But anyhow, all us children would take and pass the Queen of Spades underneath the table, down to who was going to pass the Queen cards, 3 cards to Aunt Maudie. And oh, she would say, I just have some terrible luck. I just can't understand how come I can get the Queen of Spades all the time. Well, we just had a lot of fun, of course, on it, and the adults were in the living room, probably smoking their pipes and their cigars. And if the weather was nice enough, well then we children got to go outside in the yard, and we would play this old-fashioned game of fox and goose, and then probably we would take and make some angels in the snow, and later on we would go down to the barnyard and see the calves and the chickens and the horses and all that. And of course we remembered our instructions to stay far away from Dick's stall. Well, then I'm pretty sure about 4:30, then they had coffee again and some more dessert. And then it was time to go back to Overley, and we all piled into Uncle Johnny's bobsled and his team of horses, and we made the trip down through the lane with the sleigh bells ringing. And of course we dropped off the Hinks and the Swingins first, and then Uncle Marcus and Aunt Maudie would be the last on the south end of town. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little story about Overley, North Dakota. It's a sweet memory for Dale, and Betty and I want to wish all of you a very Merry, Merry Christmas. and a happy, happy new year. And for our grandchildren, we are going to seal this message with a kiss. End of story. God bless you all.